Unlock the power of AI in marketing with our new series, AI Agent. Dive into the world of SaaS tools, discover how marketing pros deploy bots, and explore the best use cases for AI in your marketing strategy. Only on Marketing in the Age of AI podcast with Emanuel Rose.
Well, welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today, we're going to explore human consciousness, being mindful in the work that we do, and maybe we'll dig in a little bit about how not just how bots are changing our workflows in marketing and other departments, but then also how we manage those bots, and if that's different than other managing other humans. My guest today is Neil Wilkins, and he has spent over 40 years as an introvert in the most extroverted industry in the world. He has thousands of students worldwide and works with business people and individuals who are at crossroads in their lives, careers, and businesses. And he helps them find clarity and direction. He is a psychology graduate, and he's always been fascinated by mindfulness, self-awareness, and personal development, which are also things that are very focused on in my life. So, Neil, really looking forward to our conversation and seeing where we wander today.
Absolutely. Great to be here, Emanuel. Really good to see you.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to have a conversation. In 40 years as an introvert, it almost sounds like you're setting yourself up to then be an extrovert at some point. Is that in the horizon for you?
No, never. I'll fight that one. Fight that one to my last breath. No, proud introvert. I have to say, very proud to be a little different in this space, I guess. But liking my own kind of self-reflection and introspective moments and little moments of peace in this noisy world, really.
Well, that's good. Talking a little bit about what your introspective practices are. Are you a Buddhist meditator? Are you a walker? Are you a runner? What's your practice like on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, a little of all of the above, really, because it kind of really depends on what I'm feeling in that moment. I think being present is a key thing. So yes, there is that sort of essence of, simple Buddhism really being that in the moment. But I guess you get that from whether you're hill walking or out cycling. I do a lot of both, or in the waves surfing, which I also do when I can. And I guess it is just that kind of moment to sort of get away from the screen, get away from people, and just be at one, I guess, a little bit of a cliche, but be at one with nature. But it is that human bit that comes through, because we all get so carried along with the technology and AI and all these amazing commercial opportunities. But just remembering that we're human, just for a little moment in each day, is so important, isn't it?
Well, it is. And those things that you just described are super important parts of my life, and help to trigger a lot of the creativity that I then produce in the world, both for the agency and for clients. Do you find those kind of aha moments when you're out and about, as well as when you're sitting behind the screen?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, those are the moments. I think, I can lock myself into the AirPods with the music playing, and, or you can just listen to the bird song or the wind, kind of noise and things like that. And it's just almost a different level of consciousness. You kind of go somewhere different. There isn't all that chatter, because let's face it, as humans, we like to talk, don't we? And this is kind of almost reversing that around and doing the active listening and almost being consciously listening to, whether it's a podcast that you're consuming or literally just nature around you. I think it is that kind of moment of deep reflection that is so different. I think it's the difference that makes the difference.
Yeah, and I like that, the difference that makes the difference. And it is, I guess it creates a little bit of the fabric. It deepens the fabric, right? And it allows us to look at some of the things fresh again, versus just grinding on things. What's your podcast about, Neil?
Well, I mean, again, all the things that we're just touching on now, which is great because, it's a consistent message. I mean, for me, it's the most pertinent topics of our time. So there is that kind of piece around sustainability and kind of reflecting the need to respect planet and community and, do things ethically and properly. So real kind of wholesome being, really, both professionally and personally, as well as the reflection on the emerging technologies. So I've always been a technologist, if you like, but as a consumer of that, not as a technical person.
Yeah.
So inherent in the marketing that I do. So it is that sweet balance really between emerging opportunity, technology driven often, and actually doing it in a mindful way that respects everything in that
Yeah.
journey, really. So yeah, it's a lovely kind of mixture of those two things.
What is it that you think that leads the marketing function to be so technologically focused?
That's an interesting one. It really is because, in some ways we shouldn't be. In some ways it should be very, very simple. We should be literally reflecting voice of customer back into the organization at a both strategic and tactical level. So, understanding where humanity and the people that we're looking to serve are going in their journeys and then reflecting back into the organization what we can then do about it to support it and add value. And I guess that being inherent in our role as a marketer, I guess it's only natural then to be able to or want to or have a desire to do that at scale, which is where obviously technology then comes in and says, okay, we don't want to just do that one-to-one. We want to do that one-to-many. And I
Right.
think that's the piece where technology can serve as long as we don't get too carried away.
Yeah, and I think it also allows us to get to replicate our campaigns and redo the voices, right? Like we have we get to get stratified in with the technology also in ways that it's very time consuming as a just as a if we just had a paper and a pen, right?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, it is very easy to get carried away. I mean, I see this a lot with clients and those who come on my courses or who I'm kind of mentoring. It's very easy to get carried away almost to the point where you feel that it's the technology that is the goal. Is almost something quite intoxicating about a lovely emerging technology and all these AI tools that now we're surrounding ourselves with. It almost becomes that we're almost blinding ourselves from the original goal and getting too wrapped up in what they can do and kind of almost forgetting the reason that we're actually both in business but also serving the customer. And it becomes the technology is then the end game, which of course it isn't. It's just an enabler. But it's very easy to fall into that trap because it is so intoxicating.
Yeah. And what are you finding? What tools are you finding that you're using in your workday with your clients, both in the agency and then your other projects?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the obvious answer are the likes of ChatGPT. I mean, everybody is, that's your go-to, isn't it, really, when you're starting out? But I think very quickly you realize that there are other more specialist offerings that maybe can just do a little bit better on particular things. So for kind of the deep research, I'm always heading to Perplexity. That's always my fact checker. So if I create something somewhere else, I'll always run it through Perplexity to do the fact check. Have I got it right? Did we collaborate together, me and ChatGPT, and the outputs? I want something to kind of critique that because I need to have complete trust in the output. So Perplexity is definitely one there. And I'm currently playing with other tools like Imagine Art for kind of image and video creation, but then often come full circle back to ChatGPT or the OpenAI suite, if you like, because Sora for video creation is great. But these are just the tools really for production of stuff. The thing I'm particularly getting fascinated and drawn into is the whole agent piece, and I'm doing a lot of exploring and experimentation with kind of creating these little assistants to sit by my side to help me plan stuff, schedule stuff, kind of do things on a more regular basis so that I can wake up in the morning and stuff has already happened. So my business is
Yeah.
actually up and running before I get up. And that fascinates me. I'm quite intrigued about how we're going to begin to use that at scale.
For sure, yeah. And I think what we've looked at is we're saying there's things that we can automate, there's things that we can create uh, simple agents for, and then there's kind of the holy grail of campaign development agents. And uh, what kind of tools are you using both on the automation and then on the nascent agent part?
So with the kind of almost, I guess you could call it integration and scheduling. I mean, I am intrigued by Manus, which is one of the
Hmm.
new kids on the block, if you like. Big hype, big promise, lots of sort of technical claims that it's going to be able to be our personal assistants doing pretty much everything for us. Jury's still out for me on that one. I'm not entirely convinced yet, but I am finding it quite fascinating as a concept. That one is particularly good. But when it comes to the kind of scheduling and automation of things, I'm using make.com
Sure.
as a very much a drag and drop kind of process mapping tool, which is really, really interesting, where we can, with very, very simple APIs, join together a lot of the tools that we're using on a kind of day-to-day basis in isolation. And again, that really fascinates me, because I think if we can become really smart as business professionals, and even in personal life, if there's stuff that you do on a daily basis that is kind of a process or a system, if we can automate those things and actually get something like API sort of integration within, say, Make, it just frees us up to be doing the more valuable stuff. And I'm finding this concept of process mapping is really drawing me in, because I'm encouraging people to think about their processes. And it sounds really dry and a bit kind of boring and a bit geeky, but once you do it, you realize that pretty much everything we do is made up of processes. And once you figure out the ones where you're seeing repetition without adding any value yourself, those are the ones that are just crying out to be automated by tools like this. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going right now.
I love it, and I agree that there's lots of things in our workday that we're doing that's just I call clicking around. Right, we're just connecting this, connecting that, connecting this other action, and Make is a very valuable resource to be able to join these disparate pieces of software, and essentially we're building role-based custom software for each role in an organization, and it's helping to, like you're saying, be more productive. My message is that we need to free up the time, but then we also need to use that time for other things besides just stacking on more work. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think this is one of those key kind of more strategic questions, isn't it, from a people development or HR perspective? Because as soon as others in the organization, and maybe senior management or C-suite, get a wind of this, they're going to be thinking, "Oh, so now I've got a little bit more of your time, because if you've used some AI agents to do this and that, okay, I can load you now with more of the other."
Yeah,
And there is this danger that we almost get a little bit caught up in ourselves becoming assistants or slaves to the process. So I think we need to be, if we're going down this route, very, very mindful, not necessarily cautious or fearful, but very mindful that this is changing the game. And by taking away the more tactical, more administrative things, we're opening up space to add more value with more strategic things. And I think that has to be the story, because otherwise we just become hamsters in the wheel, and we're just going to be doing more and more and more of that same stuff, but just a bigger scale. And I think we're all going to burn out. I really do. So I
yeah,
think we've got to tread carefully with that one. And I think educating internally the powers that be is also part of that journey, if you're looking to experiment with this, because everybody needs to understand that that freed up time needs to be put to good use, not just replicating more of the same.
yeah. And I appreciate the message um, of looking at it as an opportunity versus being afraid of it, right? And I think that is being mindful about we're in a changing dynamic situation, and we have a chance for values clarification again, and to determine what's important, and not just continue to steamroll ahead into the future. Well, what are
Yeah,
you?
I was just going to say, I'm not sure what you're sort of seeing in your kind of conversations as well, Emmanuel, but I'm certainly seeing that there's almost a resistance, albeit a reluctance to do that kind of level of experimentation, though, because a lot of people are clearly playing with ChatGPT. I mean, it is the go-to, even if you're locked into a Microsoft environment and, your IT team say, no, you're using, Copilot because that's what we trust and that's what we're embedding. We're still seeing a lot of reports coming out that people are surreptitiously taking their phones into work and still using GPT on their own private phones and things like that. But that's almost where the experimentation stops. I'm not seeing yet too much evidence that people are actually dedicating, real valued time here to go away and do those experiments or explore or trial and error. Those kind of things, they don't seem to be in the daily mix of activities yet. I don't know what you're seeing.
Well, I think we're in like cascading marketing curves right now, right? Where we have we're in the AI curve, and we're kind of in this mid market of the bell curve, and the automation and the agent curve is just on the front side, right? Where we're innovating and try to understand it. And so it's dimensional on the marketing curves is what I'm seeing. And my clients want to have the benefit of the AI tools, but are not the experimenters. So and I know you understand this too, where we as marketing have got to go and then be leaders for the entire organization, not just for the marketing department.
So that's where I think a huge opportunity kind of lies. I mean, for years, marketing has, desired to be playing at the top table or almost to be taken seriously and not to be a support function. Maybe this is that moment. Maybe this is the perfect storm, which says, we should be understanding this. We can drive those efficiencies. And wow, if we can do this and educate internally with, marketing at the forefront of this, I mean, what is not to like will be certainly taken seriously and listened to if we can achieve that. It's a big ask, but if we could do it, sounds exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's industry leaders here in the States that are, on the IT side, who are showing very definitively that mid-market businesses are able to double EBITDA over 18 months by integrating AI correctly. And you'll be hard pressed to find another process to update that will bring that kind of profitability for an organization. But then that's where I keep going back to, well, we need to pause. And then what do we do next? Because just being more profitable to work more hasn't really achieved any kind of outcome, I think, that's valuable for the organization.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And I think this is, it's almost trying to get away from it just being a hype cycle and being something that this is actually, it's real, it's commercial. There's a value in this if we can get it right. And I think a lot of people always jump to so is it going to help my business grow? Is often the first thing. Am I going to get extra customers and extra revenue from this? And the answer might be you could. Yeah, there are ways of obviously structuring that. But I think it's an interesting one that for the first time, particularly I think in many marketing circles, this could be about actually cost reduction. This could be about reducing waste and inefficiency, which itself is a profitable outcome. So I think, well, maybe we kind of almost need to rethink where this sits in the whole commercial framework, because it's partly about growth and revenue, but it's probably, you could argue, more about the cost saving and efficiency. And I kind of like that because it's kind of challenging the status quo.
Yeah, and you're able to add, like you're saying, efficiency without adding headcount, and that's always the push-pull. But what is it like for you as you're building these bots? What's it like for you to then manage the bots and make sure that you're getting outcomes that are valuable to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a journey. I mean, it really is a journey. You think you've tamed one all of a sudden because it's like, oh, that's a good output. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Wow, aren't you intelligent? And then suddenly, then it almost gets a life of its own and starts to. Well, I know the phrase is hallucinate, but
Right.
I find they start to get a little bit of an attitude, and sometimes, if challenged, they'll come back with, "Are you sure, Neil? Yeah, really? Is that really what you want?" And it's like, yeah, I'm setting the targets here. So I find that intriguing, but also quite playful at the same time. And as they start to become, I guess, more experienced in actually what it is you need, and of course they are learning and building the profile of this as they go, they do start to challenge and they can start to question you, which I think is really healthy.
Yeah.
But also it's quite a surprise. The deeper you go in there, the more, and I'm going to use the word here, human-like they feel, because you do start to get those little nuances. It wouldn't have been the same a year ago, but now I'm noticing the little nuances of conversation, some of the phrasing that's used. You think, that actually feels like something a real person working with me would also say or challenge. So it is, yeah, it's really fascinating when you think about the psychology behind this, because consciously, yeah, it all makes sense. It's all quite logical, but subconsciously, I think there's something else going on when you, as a couple of my colleagues have said recently, feel like you're getting into a relationship with a lowercase r, I hasten to add, but a relationship with your favorite AI tool. And they've both cited ChatGPT as being that one, because what they're saying is it's almost like there's a little bit of self-reliance on it now, because it's giving so much value in every conversation you have with it. And because it feels like it knows you, and the deeper you go, the more it knows, it kind of does feel like a trusted friend or advisor. And I think it's kind of almost lulling us into that feeling of, I'm getting a lot of value here, so therefore it is kind of one of my buddies now. And then the question mark is, because nobody knows, but where is that going to go? Where does that end up? It's great stuff. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And it gets complicated to start to try to unwind that. But we do know that the robots are on the horizon. And so the emotional intelligence that these GPTs are learning will be embedded in those robots. And we will have an interesting crossroads in our lifetime. It'll be in the next 5 years, where robots will be a ubiquitous part of our experience. And then, yeah, how do I manage my feelings toward a robot, right? And how do I maintain this status or the position in the relationship?
Yeah, and I wonder if this is going to go, and I'm just really thinking out loud here, but I wonder if this is going to go a little bit back to almost our kind of innate sensibility about who is the pack leader. When you look at certain animal groupings, dogs, for example, wolves, these kind of more pack animals, there's a real kind of natural inherent hierarchy of, you have, as the phrase describes, the leader of the pack.
Yep.
And then there's a hierarchy down below that. I wonder if, as part of this, whether or not this is at a user level, so the likes of you and I, or at an actual platform level, this kind of hierarchy needs or could be built in, because as part of the prompting of the robot stroke AI, maybe it's worth actually at the outset starting to establish, well, look, this is the role that you need to play. You are not a dominant force here in this relationship. What we're going to do is we're going to collaborate, we're going to co-create certain things, but ultimately I'm in charge. The final decision will still be me as the human, and I'm going to brief that to you, whether you like it or not, robot or AI. And you probably won't like that. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? But I think maybe there's this kind of, almost assertive positioning that we need to take, because we don't know where this is going to end up.
Yeah, these are the things we have to notice, observe, and assess. Right? Is these small changes that happen, and pay attention to our role in them. Neil, I think you and I could probably have this conversation for the rest of the day, but I know you have some other things you want to accomplish too. But how do people get in touch with you, and what's the best way to make that happen?
So if you are liking podcasts, then the snappily titled Neil Wilkins podcast, yes, the clue is in the name there, does what it says on the tin, is the best place to find me on your favorite podcast channel. But on social media, at Neil Wilkins X, I'm pretty much everywhere, particularly LinkedIn is my favorite platform. But yeah, please do get in touch if you wish to continue the debate. I'd love to.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I enjoyed our conversation, and I'll reach out and we'll do this again in a few months so we can see what's changed in your world.
Wonderful. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lovely talking to you again.
Okay, Neil. Well, thanks. Hang on for me while I wrap this up, and we'll say goodbye properly. Thank you. Well, it's an interesting conversation about the role that the AI plays and how much emotional intelligence it really has versus what we think it has, and how we as a human may need to manage our emotions and our expectations about how we're talking to the AI and how it responds and what our reactions are. I hope you found value in this today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.